Lovely white friends of ours, the one who allowed us to be in this stage tonight. So a round of applause for Gonzalo. And he just snuck in the door, Mr. Cliff Wood, right in the back there. Round of applause for Cliff. And then one of our board members, Mr. David Almonte, could not be here tonight, but he does send his regards and hopes that everyone is enjoying their night tonight at our networking mixer. So, we're here tonight to hear me talk a little bit about this thing called Providence Cultural Equity Initiative. And it really is near and dear to my heart because it has been a passion of mine for a number of years now. Since I first realized that there was a real need or opportunity for culture to really make an impact here in the state. So what you'll see behind me, to my left, is the fantastic logo that was designed for the Providence Cultural Equity Initiative. And what you're gonna see is our motto right at the bottom, which I'll explain a little bit more about later on. It says, innovative solutions for creative cultural equity. And if you are familiar with indigenous culture at all, then you will notice the 4 directions with the 4 colors into the symbol there. But we did want to add in some of the other elements. My brother Artie Red Medicine here, being a shaman and from the Shinnecock and Montauk Nations, did let me know about some of the other colors that are a part of the circle of life, and we did want to add those in there as well. So that is our logo, that is our motto, and we'll go on to the next slide. So about PCEI, the Providence Cultural Equity Initiative promotes, cultivates, and advocates for the cultural sector and economy of Rhode Island. Oh, I'm sorry, I've been told to move over a bit. Luckily, I'm tall enough to just move the mic. Very good. And I really like that charge when we decided as a team that that's what it would be. Because what we saw in Rhode Island was fantastic sort of stewarding and advocating for the arts, fantastic sort of stewarding and advocating for the humanities. If you're talking heritage and preservation, we've got all of these fantastic organizations in the state doing this great work for specific elements. But most time when we talk about culture, it's usually added on to arts. And love arts, the two definitely go hand in hand, but the thought was that culture itself was something that needed its own steward and its own advocate in the same manner that all of these other elements do. And here we have the Providence Cultural Equity Initiative. So PCEI promotes, cultivates, and advocates for the cultural sector and economy of Rhode Island. Next slide, please. About PCEI, we were established through a Carter Innovation Fellowship from the Rhode Island Foundation in May of 2016, and I do want to acknowledge Ms. Jessica David from the Rhode Island Foundation, who has not only been a fantastic sort of mentor in terms of how we move through this, but has continued to be a great support to the Providence Cultural Equity Initiative. We just had a meeting with her last week talking about some of our upcoming initiatives, which I'll touch base on a little bit later. So Jessica, thank you very much for being here. And that's how PCEI got started. When we got the fellowship, we were charged with cultivating Rhode Island's culture sector and economy by promoting the state's wonderful and very, very vibrant cultural history, heritage, and diversity. We think that there's so much of it here and it's so profound that the state really should be treating it like it's one of its natural resources, something that you're not going to find in other places like you'll find it here, and definitely not on the scale. We're in the capital city of Providence right now, and literally within the city you can get from one end to the other in about 15 minutes. You can pretty much run into anyone from across the world, all types of cultures, great food, and we just thought that that was something that the state should really be highlighting and promoting and really tagging onto as a part of its own narrative. And then lastly, we incorporated as a Rhode Island-based domestic nonprofit corporation in December of 2018. So we are official now. It's no longer just a pipe dream and a goal, but we are official, and we are set to do the work that we have laid out to do. Next slide, please. So our mission is to steward and ambassador Rhode Island's cultural sector and economy. Very straightforward, but that's what we do, and that's what we have been doing, and that's what we plan to do. Our vision, though, and this is really exciting to me, is to transform Rhode Island into New England's premier cultural hub. So our goal is that when you think of New England and you're thinking of culture, you're thinking of Rhode Island. And why not? When you have the largest Cape Verdean festival outside of Cape Verde, when you have one of the largest Dominican populations here in the States, when you have the first contact pre-colonial American Indian nations that were part of the King Philip's War, that's something that we should be talking about and embracing and highlighting. And we can definitely do a much better job of that. And PCEI really feels that when we do that, because it's not a matter of if we're going to, when we do it, this is exactly the goal that we'll be achieving, transforming Rhode Island into New England's premier cultural hub. And so that brings us to our value proposition, which I decided to put into our model. When you're dealing with PCEI, you're dealing with an organization that provides innovative solutions for creative cultural equity. And it's very interesting. So when I talk to individuals who kind of move in the space of business and economic development, I've heard that they kind of, people can get kind of leery of that term cultural equity, but we think it's a fantastic thing, it's a positive thing, and we think that especially in a state like this, equity should be the thing that we're working towards, because equity is what makes everyone do well. So if you have a lot, you give a little bit to those who don't have. And that's what we're looking to do with our culture. We have fantastic cultural resources here, like Federal Hill. We were just riding up it, and I was telling Artie about the rich Italian heritage there, and he was like, well, we must have good food up here. I said, absolutely. But we're saying, not only do we have great Italian heritage, you can ride right up Broad Street and run into fantastic Latino heritage. I mean, do you want some authentic Dominican food? Then where else would you go but Broad Street, right? You head over to other parts, you get into Southeast Asian, and of course there are American Indians all over the city and state. So we're saying that cultural equity isn't something we should be shying away from, it's something we should be embracing and highlighting, and that's exactly what PCEI is here to do. So let's look at our products and services. Well, we focus in 3 areas: cultural tourism, cultural equity, and cultural consulting. When we're talking about cultural tourism, PCEI's Living Culture RI website and social media platforms provide access to authentic and unique experiences that engage Rhode Island's robust cultural communities, resources, and attractants. And we do this in the form of cultural heritage tourism, cultural placemaking, which is a fantastic initiative that we've undertaken, adding to the great reputation that Rhode Island and Providence in particular has with creative placemaking. It's taking that same sort of mindset and saying, okay, there's a space there that needs to be made, and let's not only put some art there, but let's put some art there that ties to the narrative of that specific space. So when you engage with it, there's a reason that you're engaging with that specific location, and that piece of art tells you the story of that specific location. So we're into cultural placemaking, and lastly, festival and event advisement, curation, and management. And if you check on the tables there, you should see the flyer for our 2019 Living Culture Stage, which will take place June 9th, 2019 at 3:45 on City Hall stage during this year's PVD Fest. I'll talk a little bit about that later on if anyone has any questions. Under cultural equity, PCEI's Institute for Social Cohesion, our ISC, provides workshops, certifications, and services in the areas of cultural equity and nonviolence and reconciliation. And we feel like the space where these two engage and interact with each other is what we call social cohesion, how you truly get people to get along with each other better. Because it's not enough just to know, and it's not enough just to know how to stay away from conflicts, but how do you deal with each other when the conflict's here? When the differences show up, how do you deal with each other? So we're into social cohesion workshops and certifications. The director for the Institute is a well-renowned nonviolence and reconciliation trainer. So he's able to provide those certifications and workshops. And of course, we do public speaking as well. And then our last area is cultural consulting. PCEI consults with clients to enhance the cultural capital and value of their products, services, and brands. And this shows itself in cultural relationship building, cultural assessment and advisement, and marketing, promotion, and branding of individuals, institutions, organizations, and products looking to be more culturally appropriate. Next slide, please. So just some of our highlights, and I have a fellowship impact statement that I can give to everyone. I brought copies of it here, kind of long, so I didn't want to put the whole thing up here. Just some highlights from our 4 years thus far. In 2016 was the year that we got it. About a half year, we did some really fantastic things. We supported the City of Providence's Guate Summit, which went over very well. We created a cultural equity guidebook, which was fantastic, just providing some do's and don'ts about how to engage with cultural equity. But one of the things that really, really is exciting to me was during the 7th annual New England Native American Culture Week, we did an event called Indian Slavery and Unspoken History at Brown University. I checked out the YouTube channel today and it is up to 117,000 views. So just traveling through the space of social media and things of that nature, I constantly get people tagging me saying that they saw it, learned some things that they didn't know about, and are wanting to know more. So that was really one of our highlights for 2016. In 2016, we did a fantastic event in Austin, Texas called ATX by PVD, with the goal of really taking events and artists from here in Rhode Island and highlighting them on an international stage so that they could get the attention that they need. And that's where Eastern Medicine Singers met Jonathan Gatt and has been traveling all across the world since then. So that's gone very well. In 2018, we did our City of Providence mayoral candidates on debate, which went very well. That was 2 events over a 3-week period, I think, over at MLK Elementary School, well attended. Gave people a chance to really engage with the mayoral candidates in a format that people aren't necessarily used to, and it went over very well. And then also we did our PCEI summary report where we looked at the economic potential of the cultural heritage sector here in Rhode Island based upon some of the figures coming out of the Newport Preservation Society. In 2019, we have not stopped at all. We've kept the energy going. We've done an ISC workshop at the 2019 New England Latinx Conference. We're currently serving as the sector alchemist for the City of Providence's 2020 Cultural Plan. We just, this weekend, we're at we did an Indigenous cultural display at the 1st annual North Smithfield Heritage Day Festival. And of course, we're doing our Living Culture stage at the 2019 PVD Fest. So, because I have such a fantastic board of directors, I get to pick their brains every once in a while. And this fantastic idea really came from conversation and from the ideation of my board chair, Elise Swearingen. It's the Real Revolution 2036. And what is this? Well, it's a multi-phase, statewide, regionally based marketing, branding, and cultural placemaking initiative. It establishes a unique statewide cultural tourism framework and infrastructure built around the King Philip's War and engagement with it. It's intended to attract and sustain cultural tourists in anticipation and beyond the 2036 commemoration. I'll talk about that in a moment. And it honors the 3 major aspects of Rhode Island's revolutionary legacy. First is colonial history as a catalyst for the American Revolution, right? Because the Boston Tea Party was cool, but we had gas these days, right? We didn't hide, and we went and took the ship from them and said, we're not a part of this anymore. So that's, to me, if you're talking about Rhode Island, then that kind of captures Rhode Island's spirit. Secondly, we look at the indigenous heritage as the epicenter of the American Indian resistance during the King Philip's War. You're talking seat of the Massasoit, you're talking the seat of several different battles, and you're talking several different towns that were literally burnt to the ground during the war. And that all takes place right here in Rhode Island. And then lastly, the state's enduring reputation as a bastion of diversity and innovative thought since pre-colonial times. All of these things, we argue, make Rhode Island the real revolution for America, despite what other places might be saying. And of course, all of this is wrapped around targeting the 400-year commemoration of the settlement of Providence, which takes place in 2036. So, quick summary. Because that's such a big project, we have to start somewhere, right? And where we're starting with is the Ticket Initiative. So it is the flagship phase of the Real Revolution 2036 initiative. It enhances and it develops new cultural tourism sector infrastructure and attractions in the greater Providence area. It identifies and installs appropriate monuments acknowledging local and indigenous heritage, because there's so much of it right here in the city and you don't know it unless you know about it. And we're saying people should know about it, whether they know about it or not, and there should be things there that inform them whether they're even thinking about it when they come in here, because it's important. And then lastly, it's comprised of cultural heritage tours, public engagement events, and ongoing living culture programming. So more of what you've been seeing, and then some other things going on too. And then lastly, what are the benefits of the Ticket Initiative? Well, taps into Rhode Island's unleveraged cultural tourism assets and resources, creates a new Rhode Island tourism sector, stimulates economic benefits for the state. If you check out that summary report and just look into tourism in general, you'll find that cultural tourism is the fastest international segment of tourism anywhere. And we want to bring that right here to Rhode Island. And lastly, and most importantly, I would argue, it promotes social cohesion, because the more we can acknowledge and respect each other's differences, the more we can start to see where our commonalities are after we've acknowledged each other's differences. So, I'm gonna end on this note, right? Did all of that rambling and talking, but really, why is PCEI a good investment? So first and foremost, this is an example of Rhode Islanders solving our own challenges. PCEI is a tangible example that Rhode Islanders have what it takes to comprehensively, effectively, and successfully identify and create solutions to overcome Rhode Island's own challenges. And I really took that to heart, because that's what the whole purpose of the Carter Innovation Fellowship is. To find Rhode Islanders and support and invest in Rhode Islanders to address Rhode Island's challenges. A lot of times we see Rhode Island kind of reach out to other spaces to bring people in to solve issues that, in my opinion, we have every capability to do ourselves. So when you look at PCEI, what we want you all to think about is an example of Rhode Islanders investing in Rhode Island to help move Rhode Island forward. And we think that that's really important. Secondly, we're establishing infrastructure and framework for the cultural tourism sector. In particular, PCEI's Real Revolution 2036 creates a comprehensive regionally based infrastructure and framework for appropriately engaging with the state's greatest untapped natural resource, its cultural history, heritage, and diversity. So when you look at 2036, when you look at the King Philip's War, it's not just about Europeans and about indigenous folks, right? Because there were, of course, African individuals that were involved in all of that time that was going on. So what is their narrative in all of this? As we move beyond that, we've had Latinos, we've had French Canadians, we've had all of these populations and communities make their home here in Rhode Island. What we're doing is creating a framework to say to them, hey, whatever you're doing is fantastic. Here's just a general sort of framework that you can plug into. And in particular, let's really see what you're going to get in order as 2036 comes around, because we've got a lot of time and we really should be doing something fantastic with it. If anyone's aware of the Plymouth 400 celebration that's getting ready to take place in Massachusetts in 2020, they started networking and building for that 10 years before it got started. Well, we're 16 years ahead of the game right now, so we can definitely take the best practices from them and then add Rhode Island's flavor to it and make something really fantastic for us right here. And what better time to do that than for the 400th year commemoration of the settlement of the state. And then lastly, PCEI is creating a new, powerful, and dynamic narrative for Rhode Island. In essence, and if Donald King was here, I would definitely attribute this to him because he loves saying this, we're changing the way the story of Rhode Island is both told and sold. I love it. I love some of the great work that's going on, but, I don't necessarily always want to be known as the little state. We're bigger than that. We've got great things going on. Of course, in size, we're small, but in heart, in spirit, and definitely in culture, we're above and beyond a lot of other places. So we're changing the way that Rhode Island is both told and sold by marketing and promoting the presence, experiences, and resources of the unique and diverse cultural communities and practitioners that call Rhode Island home. And once again, there's so much of it here. It really is a natural resource for the state, and we're saying let's embrace it like that, let's promote it like that, and let's let that attract all of that extra attention and tourism and all of that good stuff we've been seeking. Let's let our cultural diversity do that, and it can and it will. So lastly, you can definitely reach out to us at hello@propcei.org. I see my lovely sister and executive administrator, Takara Rivera, right there, so those emails go directly to her. You can check out our website at propcei.org. And we're very active on social media with Providence CEI on Facebook and Prop CEI on Instagram. We are just here to do exactly what our motto says, provide innovative solutions for creative cultural equity. And we do thank you all tonight for taking time out of your busy schedules to hear what we've been up to, and hopefully, as you've seen this presentation, your wheels in your own mind are starting to spin on perhaps opportunities for partnership, collaboration, support and investment, or just something you have going on that PCEI could really hope you get the word out for, because that's what we're all about, ambassadoring and stewarding Rhode Island's cultural sector and economy. Thank you very much for your time this evening. At this time, I will invite the Eastern Medicine Singers back up for one last song. And I believe Chief Black Eagle has one to give us a little kick. I'll let him choose what he wants to do.